Heyo! Another day, not working for the man. In this episode of Life on Fire, I'd like to talk about something that, I suppose people in financial independence ask themselves, but not just, right? Everyone asks some version of this question. But I can only tell you from my own perspective, which is the question of how do you stay motivated, okay? It's a relatively broad question depending on your context and perspective. The answer is different, of course. So I'll tell you how I reached my conclusions, all right? So number one, gotta find out what matters to you, right? Here's some choices. It could be stuff, right? Lots of people chase cars, houses, maybe a fancy bag, just things that you own. Is that the thing that drives you forward? Number two, people, okay? Is it relationships that you care about? Perhaps the approval of your parents, like lots of people, right? That's very, very common. Approval of your significant other, or I remember personally, not that long ago as a single dude, the approval of ladies, right, in some ways. Whether I wanted to admit that to myself back then or not, looking back, that's part of it, right? Or number three, people like to talk about experiences as opposed to things. Sure, right? But to me, my answer to these questions is definitely not things, even though I have nice things. I got over that phase pretty easily, right? I think when I was a kid, I wanted a Lamborghini, like most boys, right? Because those things look like rocket ships, and we all liked the look. But I'm pretty sure I got over that in my mid-20s, okay? A Lamborghini gets like 10 miles to the gallon. You can't even buy groceries with it. That is ridiculous, okay? Why would you have a motor vehicle that is just to drive as slow as possible, even though it can go very fast, right? But you can't drive it very fast anywhere, so it's completely oxymoronic in its conception, okay? So, not stuff, okay? Doesn't mean that I don't like having some nice stuff, it just means it doesn't drive me like it used to, right? And same for experiences, really. Like, when I think about it, I love some of the vacations that I took, but it mattered very much to me. Who did I go with? Who did I go to see, right? Like, visiting friends in foreign countries like Berlin or Bogota, they were great. They were fantastic, but not so much just because of the place, but because who I was there with, right? To me, the people part is the only thing that really matters, right? And so, when I say people, I really just mean relationships, right? Like relationships that you cherish. I think really what matters to you should boil down to a very simple analogy or a little storytelling, right? Imagine that you are about to die after having lived a full life, right? And imagine the equivalent of everyone that you've ever known. Think about what they would say and what you would say. Would you have said, hey, I wish I would have bought more Gucci sweaters? Or that I wish that I have finished more projects at work? So those are the equivalent for stuff and experiences, right, in one way or another. Or is it more common for everyone to say, hey, I'm so glad that I have a family that loves me? I think usually the deathbed confessions lean only in one direction, right? It's the relationships that you cherish. So think about that and think about whether you agree with that statement, right? Like, what really matters to you? Okay, that's number one. Two, once you find out what motivates you, think about, how you're motivated by these items or person or relationships or whatever, okay? Now, this is more difficult to talk about. I'm just going to tell you how I'm motivated, which is naps, food, and doing those things with select people, okay? That's really easy. One of my favorite stories about this, it's like when people talk about, hey, should you find a partner that you like talking to? I'm like, yeah, because you probably spend most of the time in your life talking to the other person. Okay, food and sex are great, but those are not things that you're going to be doing the majority of the time. Talking to the other person is going to be the thing that you're going to do the majority of the time with the other person. So you better hope that you find a partner that you like talking to, okay? Or just the level of talking to that you're comfortable with, right? If both of you are very stoic, sure, I guess that's perfect. If neither of you want to say anything, you're perfect for each other. But to me, that's how you are motivated by each other, right? Like in terms of like the activities that you actually want to do. So think about what it is that you like to do with, the person that you love. Or if it's stuff that you're into, like if you really love cars, maybe how you're motivated is like driving on the racetrack every weekend. That's fine too, right? Number 3, how do I stay motivated? By actively ignoring most of the world. That might seem strange to some of you, but if you've met me, you know that I'm a cynic, and I think that most of the world is just stupid. Okay, it's most of the world, not all of the world, just most of the world. Okay, key examples: Kardashians, totally dumb, dumber than dumb. I can't tell you, like, by extrapolation, reality shows, these are fake, these are bullshit. Most social media, totally BS. Okay, no one needs to have snippets like 1% of someone's lives exposed to the world. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, these are very contextual level of information that wouldn't stand up to any remote minimal level of statistical analysis. Okay, so don't believe anything you see on the media. It's just complete BS. Okay, and to be honest, one of the reasons why regular people you should always ignore as well, mostly ignore, I'm just talking about reality shows are celebrities. I'm talking about most people in your own lives. You should ignore because they just want you to be average, okay? Because they're incapable of thinking that anyone can excel at anything, okay? Your neighbors, this whole idea of like keeping up with the Joneses, you know what that means? It's because everyone's trying to keep up with each other. And they'll only be able to do that when most of you don't stand out from each other, right? And that's what it is. There's jealousy involved. People just want you to be the same as your neighbors, okay? And in a way, I can understand why that is the case, right? Human beings use this competitiveness to drive themselves forward, right? But I want you to remove yourself from that, right? Like, don't worry about what the world is saying that you should be doing. Just do what you, in your heart, want to be doing, right? Again, I'm going to go back to step 1 and 2, which is find out what matters to you and how you're motivated to accomplish those things. And then you can get to number 3, which is to ignore what the world is telling you, because the world in general, just not worth paying attention to. And number 4, how do I stay motivated? This is more specific to somebody in my own position, I suppose, because that's the position I'm in now, which is make a routine, right? We are by design as human beings creatures of habit. I say we, but really I'm just talking about myself, okay? I'm a creature of habit. Maybe one of you guys, 1 in a million, are super spontaneous. That's different, okay? That's not me. Okay? Like, I say this point is more specific to people already in financial independence because in this stage, I've had a lot more work to do in terms of like how to define a routine, because there's no more concept of employment to define the majority of my day for me, right? Yeah. So I have to fill up, all of my waking hours, minus, obviously my multiple naps that I can afford to take these days. Now, if you're not already in financial independence, you only have to deal with maybe like 6 hours a day, right? Minus work and commute. And that sucks. But the reality is, whether you're in one stage or another in your life, there's no end to the number of things that you can learn, right? And a routine helps because you need a habit to reinforce and to learn things, right? the question is like, what do you really want to learn? And if the desire is there, there's no, impediment really to how and how much time we could put into these efforts. And you might say, hey, if I have a job, why would I want to learn new things? I would say you're a human being. You're a human being, and I hope you're a reasonable, rational, intellectual human being. In which case, you should always be learning something, okay? Learning things is what keeps the noggin working and what keeps you, cool. Not that I think that's an important thing. I mean, really, that as a most basic level of, like, just being with the times, like, how I have to teach my dad how to use a smartphone, right? Like, it's not like he's a smart guy, but at some point, when you reach a certain age, you stop wanting to, like, absorb new information, right? I think this is because we get into our old habits, right? And when I say the last thing how to stay motivated is make your routine, you're always trying to adjust your own routine and your habits, right? To form better and new habits, to go along with the times, to keep your brain working. And that is how you stay relevant and, I think, in essence, happy. All right. That's all I've got on this subject for now. Have a great night. See you.